Welcome to my channel, Algebra Help, You Lost Me at X. Over the course of this series, I will be teaching the entire algebra course. This will be great for additional lessons for students, as well as a guide for first-year teachers. Subscribe and follow me during the school year. Alrighty, so every Algebra 1 course starts with a review of solving one-step equations. That is the basis to the entire course. And as you can see, I have 4 different examples here with 4 different operations. So the one thing we want to talk about is that there are 2 sides to an equation. And whatever we do to one side of an equation, we want to make sure that we do to the other. And we also want to isolate x. So when I come up to this problem here and I see that I have a minus 2, I want to do an inverse operation to this minus 2, which is plus 2. And whatever I do to the left side of the equation, I also want to do to the right side of the equation. Now, negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so we can cross it out. And we can bring down the x. We can bring down the equal sign. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. And of course, we can check our work with the original problem. Negative 3 minus 2 does equal negative 5. Moving on to my next problem. Again, I'm going to split my equation into the right side of the equation and the left side of the equation. And when I read the left side of the equation, this is 6 times a number is 30. So what is the inverse operation of times? That is to divide. We're going to use a fraction bar to indicate division. And again, 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 1x is the same thing as x. I'll slide my equal sign down, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. And again, I can check my work by going 6 times 5 is 30. So sometimes we think the world of mathematics ends when there's fractions involved, but we're just going to do an inverse operation to plus 1/4, which is minus 1/4. I'm going to do that to the left side of the equation. I'm also going to do that to the right side of the equation. 3 minus 1 is 2 over 4. And I can simplify this fraction to 1/2. Our last problem on this row seems to trip up some students because we forget that that fraction bar also means division. So we can say x divided by 3. And so when we think of what is the inverse operation to dividing by 3, that is the multiplication of 3. Negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. Moving on from one-step equations, we do want to talk about two-step equations. So to isolate the variable in a two-step equation, you must perform 2 inverse operations. The inverse operation must undo the order of operations. This means you start by undoing addition or subtraction, and then you use inverse operations to remove any multiplication or division. So when I go to my next line of problems, I now see when I split it, I have 9 times a number minusing 8 equals 10. So I'm going to start off by adding 8 to both sides of this equation. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. I'm going to bring down my 9x. 10 plus 8 is 18. Divide both sides by 9, and I get x equals 2. And of course, I can check my work because, let me show that problem again. I can go 9 times 2 is 18. 18 minus 8 is 10. So over here on my next problem, and pause the video at any time to try these problems on your own first. I'm going to start off this problem by subtracting 1 from both sides. I get x divided by 4. Negative 10 minus 1 is negative 11. I'm now going to multiply both sides of the equation by positive 4, and x equals negative 44. And again, I can check my work. Let me take away this sign here. Negative 44 divided by 4 is negative 11. Negative 11 plus 1 is negative 10. So let me look at this problem here. I am going to start off this problem by adding 5 to both sides. And 5x equals negative 15. Divide both sides by 5. And I end up with x equals negative 3. And again, negative 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 15 minus 5 is negative 20. Already, my last equation, I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. So I get x divided by 5 equals 17 minus 11 is 6. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And I get x equals 6 times 5, which is 30. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 6 plus 11 is 17. So throughout this chapter, we are going to start writing and solving some word problems. And word problems tend to be scary. But if we try not to read them as a whole and we try to read them as parts of the equation, we can break them down. So when we look at 5 less than a number is 9, let's kind of break this down a little bit. So let me erase this. So first of all, this word is an equal sign. So I can translate that is to equals, and is 31 is equals 31. And so that's the right side of my equation. So 9 times a number, well, this is the same thing as 9x. And 5 less than this is 9x minus 5. And there you have it. There's our equation. 9x minus 5 equals 31. I can solve this equation by adding 5 to both sides. And I get 9x equals 36. I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And I get x equals 4. So when we do the next thing, we see is 8 again. Okay, so we can set up our equation and say equals 8. 6 times a number is 6x, and 10 less than this is 6x minus 10. So I'm going to solve the rest of my equation here. I'm going to add 10 to both sides. I get 6x equals 18. Divide both sides by 6, and I get x equals 3. And there you have it. That's our very first section, our very first chapter in algebra. So like I said, over the course of this series, I'm going to be teaching the entire algebra course for students who need extra help and first-year teachers to algebra to know how to teach the content to their students. See you next time.